This is the Rookie Big Board Rookie Profile Series. I'm your host, Matt Hicks, the FF Educator, joined by John Lobb, the Gridiron Scholar. This is the Darnell Washington Rookie Profile. Oh, man, it's not oftentimes I could say this, John, about a tight end profile, but this is going to be a fun one here. Let's get into the 6'7", 264-pound tight end out of Georgia.
Even in a game which is dominated by big men, Darnell Washington is a big man. When you see him on the football field in Georgia and Alabama and the SEC is loaded with NFL prospects, and Washington stands out amongst those prospects. And at the combine, Matt, sometimes when you just saw him standing with other tight ends who are big men, right? 6'4" men, and you're like, whoa, look at Washington. He is a massive human being. So there's no question in my mind that there is going to be an NFL team and an organization that falls in love with him. And before we even look at anything else, it's important to remember that he played at Georgia in predominantly a run-dominated offense and behind an uber tight end prospect in Brock Powers, who we are going to break down over the summer for Debbie, and we will look at next winter when he comes out. So Darnell Washington, there are reasons that he doesn't pop necessarily in a production profile. In high school, a 5-star prospect, ranked as the number 23 overall prospect and the number 1 athlete nationally, and the top prospect out of Nevada. Interesting that he comes all the way from Nevada. He goes east to Georgia. In 2020, Matt, he played in the Under Armour All-America game. And I had heard rumblings about Darnell Washington High School, but I'm very reluctant to get too involved in tight ends from high school because in general, they don't always make it at the college level. But he played basketball in high school as a junior, Matt. He averaged 11 points a game and 12 rebounds. Can you imagine being 6'3", thinking you are like a good power forward and you're matched up with Darnell Washington on the glass? Just simply amazing. He also has a track and field background as a freshman. So he goes to Georgia, Matt, and he doesn't really do too much. I mean, limited passing game, depth chart challenges, run-oriented scheme. In 2021, when a lot of people started talking about Darnell Washington, he was injured in training camp, and he missed the first 4 games of the season. He finished with 10 catches for 154 yards and a touchdown. So far, if you've been looking at him for 2 years, nothing's popping on tape or in a production model. But there was a lot of buzz about Darnell Washington draft circles, Debbie circles, college football universe. He was named the preseason John Mackey Award watch list last year, Matt. And in 15 games for the national champion Bulldogs, he established career highs with 28 catches for 454 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's with Brock Powers, who is somewhat of a unicorn at the position on the team. He was twice named the team co-captain against Kent State and Auburn. But it was the combine, Matt. I knew he was athletic. Everyone knew he was athletic. But, man, I think he cemented at worst a second-round pick. He might sneak into the first. He posted a 4.64 in the 40 and a 4.08 in the 20-yard shuttle, dude. He's big. He's fast. He's powerful. He accelerates. He's got everything. Matt, what's the film breakdown say?
It's just fun, man. It's just fun. That's what I'm saying. Listen, I love watching all film. All right. But if we're keeping it real, tight end film can be a little rough. Okay. It's not the first position you watch. It's the last position for me. All right. But it was worth it. There was some gold stashed at the end of my film review list this year. Impressive athleticism. I know what you're thinking. We just talked about the size. the first thing that has to pop into your mind is that he's clunky. He can't move quickly. You're thinking of an offensive lineman. You're thinking of a right tackle. He's the size of a right tackle, but he's impressive. He's fluid. He runs around the field like a wide receiver. He's not fazed by it. And obviously, John, a large catch radius, a very large catch radius, but he's not just arms. He has good hands as well, consistent hands. There's a fun one, John. If you were watching the passing drills at the combine, you saw him go up and snag the ball with one hand. If you think about it, you're like, oh, that's just kind of fun. But you think about that. It was so natural to him because nobody in their right mind is trying to make a highlight reel catch during that drill at the combine, which means he was truly just reacting. And he just sticks his hand up and just palms the ball. He is a contested catch machine. Defensive backs, they're just not able to get near him. And John, so before I get into the next part, I want to emphasize that a little bit more. The contested catch machine, he's going to be a target in the red zone, especially at the next level. So I think a lot of folks are wondering, Georgia, they didn't throw the ball a lot. When they did throw the ball, they went through Brock Bowers or they went through the running back oftentimes. So Washington doesn't have a ton of numbers, right? And so they're wondering, where does this fantasy football production going to come from? I could see an example where Darnell Washington gets maybe 60 targets in a season, which is not high, but he gets 10 touchdowns or 9 touchdowns, right? Because he's going to be such a mismatch in the red zone. It's going to be difficult, even double teaming him. It would be difficult to not get the ball in a position where only Washington could catch it, right? On the side of the end zone or something along those lines. In terms of run blocking, John, here's his only weakness. He may be too good of a blocker because NFL teams might want to use him truly as a quasi right tackle. Now, I want to emphasize here, no NFL head coach in their right mind would not let him run routes and utilize him in the passing game. But he is a monster run blocker, John. You look at the way Georgia used him as a run blocker. I mean, he just demolishes guys, all right? He smashes linebackers. He pushes them over. Georgia used him as a lead blocker at times, kind of like in an H-back role. And in that, there's a couple examples of these poor defensive backs just getting obliterated by Washington, right? In terms of a pass blocker, he stonewalls the edge. He shows the ability to have that light feet. He reads defense as well. He picks up on his assignment. He really is a well-rounded back. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's used at the next level, John. I think he's going to be lined up in line. They're going to split him out. I think at times he'll be lined up as an H-back. So they're going to move him all around. And it's a pretty exciting thing to think about here. Darnell Washington could be a really unique player at the NFL level. But I alluded to those stats, John. So if you're just analytics, you're not going to like the next part of this.
No, he's not going to pop up off the page when you look at him, but you do have to put him in context. And Matt, you were talking about him being a red zone threat. I have dreams of him in 2 tight end formations in the goal line. He is going to be a legitimate problem because he can catch and run a route and catch the ball, or he can just smash your defensive end and just clear out. So an NFL coach and offensive coordinator is really going to like that opportunity for having him on your football team. So let's look at the goodness of the model. 17.2 yards per reception. That is his athleticism, right? It comes through. There are times where you just see him rambling down the field. 66% catch rate. That's a nice number for a big tight end. So those two stick out. 10% aerial dominator. He's not that type of production guy in your model, but he played with Brock Bowers. Limited receptions at 45, limited receiving yards at 774. The size 6'7", 264. I cannot ignore that. His run blocking. Now, there's also the other side. They might just have him as a run blocker because he's so dang good, Matt. And that might take him out of the routes at times, which is something that we have to worry about as a fantasy football fan. We want our tight ends on the routes. But he is a great football player. And someone actually mentioned to me, Is he a better NFL player than a fantasy player? And I said, that could happen with Darnell Washington. However, if you're looking for ceiling, Matt, the ceiling is sky high at the tight end position. What round do you project, and what do fantasy footballers know about Darnell Washington?
John, I have the big four tight ends all in the same category here, 21 to 50, day one late to day two mid. It's just kind of a safe range to put all these guys in, right? Because once you start trying to pick one, then it's just going to skew value. But I would be shocked, John, shocked if Darnell Washington is on the board as we head to day two of the NFL draft. I wouldn't be surprised as high as the Lions at 16. I wouldn't be surprised if he went even a little bit higher because he is just such a unique weapon, right? In terms of his fantasy football ADP, I do think you're going to have to pay that mid-second round 205 to 208. I have him projected as a weekly starter. That is not a grade that you should take for granted for fantasy football at the tight end position. I'm going to have high exposure to him. I have his value comp, the same price that you would pay for Pat Freiermuth. And I have to say, I'm in a startup draft. He went right in that right, like back-to-back picks almost with Freiermuth earlier today for me. So I'm a big fan of Darnell Washington. You should be a fan of Freiermuth right now at his value, right? This guy who's kind of an NFL blocker, but also a pass catcher, right? And you should be a fan of all the resources, John, available at the Rookie Big Board, the rankings, the Discord, the rookie guide, so much available, all for just $3 a month. Head on over to patreon.com/rookieBigBoard. As always, we appreciate you checking out this episode of the Rookie Big Board.